Welcome back, everyone. This week I was going to start off by doing some repairs on the window behind me and the one in the next room over, because we've had a lot of unseasonably warm springtime weather, but it all decided to change over the weekend and turn into this.
More than a half foot of snow. That's lake effect in parts of Pennsylvania, single digits in Erie.
It's supposed to warm up a whole lot more by the end of the week, so I'm going to take care of those windows then. But for now, I'm going to do something a little more seasonable for a day like this, and that is finish up all 3 of the heater ducts in the bedrooms. Last January, I just installed the furnace in the basement, and that unfortunately only supplied heat to the first floor. This house never had any way to get heat to the second floor, so I had to quickly come up with a plan of how to do that. Over there in the corner, that box sticking out, that is where the chimney is. And I figured a good place to hide some ductwork would be right next to it. So I just added one duct, which went to the master bedroom, another one next to that, which went to the bedroom behind it, and I figured a good way to cover that up would be to extend that box out, and everything would look pretty good.
Upstairs in the master bedroom closet is where the ducts come out, and that's where I stopped working on this project. It wasn't a big deal, because as long as the closet door was open, there was plenty of heat upstairs. But over the next few days, I'm finally going to finish up the ductwork. I start off by test fitting the boot for the back bedroom so I can see where things are going to line up. There's an old gas line that goes through the wall, and using that as a reference point, I measure the distance between that and the boot. Then I take the boot to the other side of the wall and place it the same distance away from the gas pipe. I mark both sides and connect the end lines together with a straight piece of scrap wood. For the least amount of damage to the trim, I cut the hole out with the oscillating saw. The excess piece of wood gets loosened up with a screwdriver, then pulled off the rest of the way with my hands. I chip off the brittle plaster, cut away the lath out of the hole, and sweep up my mess. Back inside the closet, I reattach the boot. And from the bedroom side, notice that it's a little short. I take a measurement so I can make an extension piece. On a piece of sheet aluminum, I transfer the measurement over, plus an extra inch for attachment to the boot. I'm making the extension in 2 pieces, so I copy the same measurement on the other side of the sheet. Now, I mark out 12 inches for the length, 4 inches for the height, and the remainder is used as an attachment tab. I cut out both pieces with tin snips, then lightly score over the 12-inch and 4-inch lines with a utility knife on both pieces. I place the piece score side up over some scrap wood with a square edge and bend over the metal at each one of the scored lines. Then I repeat the same process on the second piece. I align the pieces to make a box and screw it together with 4 self-tapping sheet metal screws. Now to fit it onto the boot, and it's 2 inches too big. That's when I realized I measured the wrong boot. The master bedroom was 4 by 12. This bedroom was 4 by 10. So I start all over again, this time making the extension piece with the right measurements. And now, it fits perfectly. I attach it onto the boot with 4 self-tapping sheet metal screws and make the seam airtight, wrapping it with DC 181 flex duct tape. The boot is a little harder to install now with the extension piece added on, but after a little bit of finagling, I managed to get it into place. Then I connect it back onto the heater duct. Finally, I secure one end of the boot in place with a few galvanized roofing nails and attach the other side of the duct with 2 self-tapping sheet metal screws. Now it's onto the duct for the master bedroom. I swivel the sections of the elbow until I get it aimed to about where I want it. Then I place the boot over top to make sure everything is lined up for where I want it to go through the wall. I mark a line across each of the joints so I don't accidentally change the shape of the elbow when I go to move it. Then I mark out the hole for the boot like I did in the back bedroom, and cut out the hole with the oscillating saw. For some reason, the plaster in this wall is a lot harder than it was in the back bedroom, but after quite a few hits with the hammer, I get it loosened up and chip it off with a screwdriver. Now, the lath gets cut, pulled out of the hole, and I clean up the mess. I was unbelievably lucky not to have run into a stud in the middle of this hole. The only thing that's there is an old disconnected gas line. On the other side of the wall, I start unscrewing the pipe. I was hoping to have the pipe and the cap come off in one piece, but only the cap came off. There's only about 1 inch of pipe sticking out from the baseboard, and it's very difficult to get the wrench to grip onto it. After about 5 minutes of struggling with this, I was able to get the pipe loosened up enough so I could unscrew it the rest of the way by hand. Unfortunately, some of the wood finish got scraped off with a wrench. Now, I transfer the measurement from the hole inside the closet to the bedroom side. Then, I use a cutout from there as a template and draw around it with a marker. Just as before, I cut out the hole, break out the plaster, remove the lath, and clean up the mess. The unrelenting gas pipe is still in the way, gripping onto an elbow that's fused itself to the piping over the last 100 years is not easy to remove. I spent another 5 minutes moving it 1/8 of a turn each time until I was able to unscrew it the rest of the way by hand. And this time, by some miracle, the pipe came off with the rest of it. Now I slide the boot in from the closet side, and it's getting stuck on the left by just a little bit of the 2x4. I get the door stop out of the way and take off 1/4 inch of baseboard and lath. Then, with a reciprocating saw, I cut out the bottom and top of the 2x4 and break it off with a hammer and chisel. Just like the boot in the back bedroom, this one is a little short too. Hey, wait a second. I have just the right piece for this. It's almost like it was part of my plan. Yeah, that's it. So I take a measurement and transfer it over to the already manufactured extension piece. Connect up the dots, then with a right angle grinder, I start cutting the piece down to the right size. Just like the shower door frame, aluminum doesn't throw sparks unlike steel, so I feel comfortable cutting this inside.
That's where I've got to stop for now because this is the wrong size boot. The front end is correct, it's 4x12, but the back side is wrong. This is a 6-inch opening and I have a 7-inch elbow. So I ordered the right piece for here, but it got lost in shipping somewhere. I'm hoping it's going to come in tomorrow or the next day, but I'm not really sure. But I needed to continue on this project, so I just used this one as a stand-in to get the hole cut and everything measured up to size. So when I do get the other one in, I can pull this one out, put the new one in, and get everything all connected together. There's a couple more hours left in the day, so I'm just going to go over to the little bedroom above the stairs and finish up the heater duct in there.
The only thing this duct needs is the boot attached, so it shouldn't take very long to complete. I place the level at the edge of the crimping on the elbow. Then I bring the boot over to the level so both the boot and the elbow are overlapping. I trace the outline of the boot and cut the hole out with the oscillating saw. Once again, there's an old gas line in the way of the heater duct, so I go the easy route this time and cut it out with a reciprocating saw. The boot just barely fits into the floor joist cavity. Then I realize I can't even get it to fit under the elbow. So I go downstairs and undo the connection between the elbow and the duct to the furnace. The elbow comes up, the boot comes out, then I screw both pieces together and seal up the joint with flex tape. Now I just simply push the elbow down onto the duct and the hole is too small. Well, maybe it's just getting stuck on the gas pipe. I lift up one of the boards I loosened up when I did the wiring, cut out more of the pipe, pull the pipe out of the way, and put the floorboard back in place. Well, that didn't help at all. I take a measurement for the difference, mark it, and cut the hole a little larger. The boot goes back in, and now the hole's too big. That's when I remembered something from a long time ago in geometry class. There was a math problem where there was a square frame, and inside that square was a rectangle that was slightly smaller than the frame. The rectangle could move side to side, but couldn't be turned because the diagonal measurement of the rectangle was longer than the height of the square. The only way to turn the rectangle would be to increase the height of the square. And that's what's happening here. The boot is the rectangle and the floor is a square. Cutting the hole in the floor larger than the boot is the only way to get it in. The floorboards by the wall are really loose and need some support. So I screw in a piece of 2x4. And for some support at the end of the hole, I partially screw in a piece of 2x4 on one side only, and swivel it out of the way. For the last time, the boot goes back in. Then I reach in under the floor, swivel the 2x4 up against the boot, tighten down the first screw, and add a second screw on the other side. Now I reconnect the elbow back into the duct, tape up the seam, and slide the insulation back into place. Then I secure the boot to the floor with 4 roofing nails. And add another little 2x4 piece on the other side of the boot for some more support. A really important step is to seal up any of the gaps around the heater duct with fire-rated spray foam. This just reduces any spread of fire from one floor to the next. I trim up a piece of floorboard with a table saw and set it into place. Then I nail down all the boards around it with a finish nailer. Last year, when I cut the floorboards out for the heater duct, I forgot to mark which ones go where. So, after a few minutes of trial and error, I figure out where they all go. Now I can finish nailing down the last of the floorboards and install the register cover.
Oh, I've had enough for the day. You ready to go home, Caesar? All right, we'll see you back in the morning. Good morning, everyone. Last night when I got home, something very unexpected happened. I found that my replacement 7-inch boot got delivered. So this morning I will be putting this one in, but before I get to that, I have to do some backtracking on the ductwork I did in the closet because I forgot to add the fire barrier between the first and second floor. So I made a quick one up here out of some 1/2-inch drywall left over from the bathroom, and I put a 7-inch hole on top and a 6-inch on the bottom, and this will go around those 2 ducts that come up and make everything a lot safer.
I start off by removing the 2 elbows out of the hole. Then slide in the drywall fire barrier for a test fit. The first elbow goes back in, and the second one seems to be a few inches off. I take a measurement between the 2 pipes and another measurement between the pipe and the edge of the hole. I remove the elbows again and take the drywall piece over to the bedroom and use it as a template. The first hole is correct, and I take my measurements off from there and the side. Then I connect the 2 marks together with the circle from the original piece. Next, the drywall gets scored, snapped, and cut to size. Then the 2 circles get cut out with a rotozip. These holes don't have to be perfect. Any gaps between the drywall and the pipe can be sealed up later. Hopefully, if I measured everything properly this time, it'll be my last test fit. And now the moment of truth. Yes, it all fits together. Alright, time to take it apart for the last time. With fire-rated spray foam, I apply a thin bead all the way along the perimeter of the hole. Then I slide in the piece of drywall around the two ducts and press it firmly down into the foam. To keep the drywall in place, I screw it down to the lath of the living room ceiling below. Just to be sure there are no voids in the seal around the drywall, I go over the perimeter again with more foam. Then I seal in the gaps between the two ducts. The first elbow goes back in, and I secure it on both sides with a few self-tapping sheet metal screws. The top seam is giving me a little trouble because of the irregular tapered shape of the pipe, so I add a few more layers of tape until everything is sealed up tight. The bottom seam is a lot easier to do, though I end up getting some of the foam stuck to my hands in the process. The second elbow goes back in, the joint gets screwed together, and sealed up with a few pieces of flex tape. Now, the boot extension gets screwed onto the boot on all four sides, and the seam is sealed up with some more flex tape. The boot goes back through the hole, and now for the really tricky part of connecting the boot to the elbow. There's just enough space to swivel the end section of the elbow so I can get it started. Then, with a little force and wiggling, I'm able to get both pieces together. Now, I swivel the sections back to the marks I drew on the elbow earlier. The same as the elbows before, I screw both ends onto the pieces with self-tapping sheet metal screws. Then, make both joints airtight with a few more pieces of flex tape. The hole for the boot is a little big, so I shim it before I nail it in place. If I didn't shim it, the boot could get misshapen and the wall grate might not fit. The shims get scored and snapped, and the louvered grate gets screwed in place in the master bedroom and also in the back bedroom. Now I have to make a box to cover up all this ductwork. For the sides of the box, I can use the existing trim. All I have to do is add a little piece for the side and make a piece for the front. For the front, I cut down a piece of 2x8 and put it in for a test fit. Dimensional lumber today is smaller than it was in the past. To make up the difference, I add a piece of lath on top of the 2x8, nail it down, and now both edges are flush. The 2x8 gets screwed to the walls and floor, and now I move on to the last piece of the box. There's some missing plaster above the heater boot that should be there for support on the side piece. To fix this, I make the wall flush again by nailing on a piece of lath. Now there's a stable base for the side piece to get screwed to the wall. There needs to be some support down the middle of the box, so I cut down a few more pieces of 2x8, screw them into place, and nail on a couple pieces of lath on top to make everything the same height. Before I make the top of the box, I check with the framing square to see if the corners are 90 degrees. I need to make my measurements for the top off of two sides that are 90 degrees to each other. Otherwise, the measurements can get skewed and I end up with gaps along the wall. It looks like the front and right side are the best, and I take my measurements off from those two sides. I transfer the measurements from the piece of cardboard onto the plywood, put some scrap wood under the plywood, and adjust my blade height so I don't accidentally cut through the floor, and cut everything down to the right shape. I do a test fit, and it's a little tight in the back corner by the chimney. One more quick cut, and this time it fits just fine. The plywood comes out for the last time, and I mark out for the center support and also where the heater duct is so I don't accidentally drive a screw through it. I noticed a lot of heat radiating off these pipes when the furnace was on. So I pour some extra fiberglass insulation left over from the attic and lightly spread it around, keeping it off the sides and center support of the box. Finally, the top gets pushed into place and screwed down with 2-inch wood screws. The plywood doesn't look the best, but in a few weeks when I carpet the bedroom, the top will look a whole lot better. As for the front of the box, I saved the piece of trim that used to be right here in the closet. It gets set into place and nailed on with a few finished nails.
There's just a couple of things I want to explain a little bit better, and the first one is the heater duct for the master bedroom. That's the room we're in right now, and I used a 7-inch duct to heat the space because that just produces more than a 6-inch duct does. And since this is the largest room of the second floor, I wanted to make sure it was heated adequately. The problem with 7-inch ductwork is it's kind of hard to find that stuff anymore. It's just one of those unused sizes. I'm able to get the ducting, the piping available locally, but I can't seem to get any of the fittings. So that's why I had to order that one boot online. Another way I could have solved the heating issue for the bedroom would have been to just add a second heater duct to the room. But I didn't really want to do that because I'd already put 2 ducts in from the basement through the living room to the second floor, and I really, if I added another one, I had to box out another corner, and that would just look kind of silly downstairs. So really, the 7-inch duct was the best way to go for me. The other thing is the ductwork in the closet. I used the wrong type of tape on that, and what I should have used was this stuff. This is foil tape. And I didn't use it because this guy here, he chewed it up. He turned it into one of his chew toys. But I didn't use it for that reason. I just didn't use it because I've had some problems with it in the past. I don't know if I got a bad batch or what, but some of the joints have delaminated. They've just the glue has dried up and the tape has fallen off. So that's why I used the flexi tape in the closet there. And it's a lot stickier than this stuff. So I'm hoping it lasts longer. I know nothing lasts forever, but you never know. So if you're dealing with an inspector who's going over your work with your ductwork, make sure you use the foil tape when you're working with hard ducting, and use the flexi tape when you're working with this stuff, the flexi duct. So that is it for this episode. If you liked what you saw, hit the thumbs up button. If you are new to this channel or haven't subscribed yet, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you know when the next video is going to come up. Caesar and I will see you next time. Oh boy. There's a couple more hours in the day, so I'm going to go over to the heater duct above the stairs, which is not a thing, and that's what I'm going to do. Okay, all right. My replacement 7-inch duct got delivered. This is not a duct. This is a boot. This is a boot. My 7-inch boot got delivered. Yes, it did. What? 7-inch ducts produce more heat than a 6-inch one does, and there's more to that sentence, and I don't remember what it was. Caesar chewed this one up, so this one couldn't have been used anyway, but I didn't use it because, Caesar, you're in the way. And as for the flex duct, that goes to be used on Caesar. This is not helping. No one can see me. No one can see me, Caesar. They just see the back of your head.